Oh, bonus live stream this afternoon. You guys are seriously into it if you're up and joining us. Preston's ready to roll. Patrick's in, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Intro music is rolling. Almost. All right, here we go. Atta girl, Hope.
All right, you're up.
Hey there, Tim Hill, filling in for Pearson. Fortunately, Preston is here to keep this thing on the rails, as is Patrick Perrette, helping produce from the Heritage Chevrolets here in downtown Columbia. Gentlemen, Preston, let's start with you. How was the weekend? Doing well?
Man, the weekend was all right, man. It was a big sports weekend. Watched a lot of not typical sports sports for the Thorne family, so it was all right.
Okay. Patrick, what about you?
Yeah, it was a huge weekend. Kind of disappointing. The Caps got bounced. Was a bummer. But another huge lacrosse weekend, so I will never complain about that.
So those sports that the Thorne family doesn't normally watch, I assume it was hockey and lacrosse, just like Patrick, right, Preston?
Formula One.
A lot of the F1, a little bit of that, I did come across a little bit of the hockey, but, again, it's depending on what sport it is. It depends on how late I tune into the sport. So, I usually tune in to hockey around Stanley Cup.
What were the other non-traditional sports then?
Well, it wasn't non-traditional for the Thorne family, but we did do a tremendous amount of gymnastics watching. Watch the GOAT in action.
Yeah, I saw people complaining about Simone Biles, that she's basically just too good.
Yeah, the deal is, she's so skilled that the other gymnasts can't do any of her skills. So essentially, she's just too good to compete.
So what's the complaint there, Patrick?
I think it's just everyone else knows that she can, I guess, do tricks that no one else is physically capable of doing. So it's not even a competition, because if she just does the trick, then no one else actually stands a chance.
Wait, she's the Tony Hawk of gymnastics? I'm guessing that's never been said before.
I think she's literally the greatest of all time, right?
I think so. Yeah, I did see something pop up with that. So what was it? The U.S. championships? Was it the World Championships? What was going down this week in gymnastics?
So they were they were moving into Olympic trials. So they're working on for Tokyo coming.
Yeah.
So they was putting the team together, and it was interesting because one time Simone, she actually slipped off the uneven bars, I believe, but she's so good at it doesn't even matter.
I was watching maybe some would consider untraditional or non-traditional from the big three that we usually talk about in football, baseball, and basketball. A lot of golf on around my house. So I would like to start with that. And Preston, I know you're a word nerd like me. Unlike me, you're on your third book authoring. So since I've seen that pop up on your Twitter here recently, let's go with one word to start. One word from each of you gentlemen. Preston, I would like to have you start. Watching Phil Mickelson win the PGA Championship. 50 years old, just 3 weeks away from being 51. What one word would you describe how that made you feel?
Proud.
Proud.
And I'm not sure if it was because of Phil, but it was just because of the South Carolina showing out and the folks being true South Carolinians and abandoning all protocol and throwing caution to the wind and really celebrating and living in the moment, and also seeing the Isle of Palms get his glory, a place that I've been many times. So it was really cool to sort of see the hometown spoke about in such glowing terms.
Okay, proud. I did not see that one coming. Let's go with one word watching Phil Mickelson win the PGA Championship. If you watched it all, it could be ignored. It could be don't care, even though it's 2 words. I'm here to accept only honest answers and not your I'm on the radio guy and let me speak politically correct.
Yeah, mine is unfazed. I had it on the little TV with no volume just to see if he collapsed down the stretch, and because also I had picked Brooks Koepka in our early game pool. Right. So I was actually more so just pulling for Brooks to win so I could say I told you so. I mean, it's cool. It's cool that Phil won. I'm happy for him. He's a likable dude, but it was just the background of my day. I was watching lacrosse and hockey on the big screen and Phil on the little screen. So, I mean, I think it's cool. I probably wouldn't have watched it maybe at all if it was other random guys. I don't even know who else was on the leaderboard, but if it was like not Brooks or not Phil or Spieth or one of the other headline grabbing guys, I don't know if I would have paid any attention.
Are you telling me Kevin Streelman and Louis Oosthuizen don't get you going? TV?
Louis Oosthuizen intrigues me a little bit, but I don't even know is Kevin Streelman American? I literally couldn't tell you the first thing about him.
Yes, he is. And I thought that was going to be absolute worst case scenario for golf.
Oh, yeah.
At one point, he was putting for the lead, I think, and I was like, "Oh no, this could happen. This is absolutely awful." So let me give you my word, and I would love to hear your words too. If you want to be fellow word nerds, hit us up 803-404-6100. The Cool Care Heating and Air text line. You can also call us that same number, 803-404-6100. Love Chevy phone lines up and roll. My word is hopeful. Two different reasons. I am hopeful for the very selfish reason that I am 43 years old. I am getting much closer to 50 than I ever thought I would. When people, Tom Brady, Phil Mickelson, who else do we throw in there? Throw LeBron James these days, I guess, on the court. When older athletes continue to perform at a high level, when they do something that's never done before, the older I get, the more hopeful that makes me feel that maybe we can push off really being an old guy because they're doing it, which of course is just ridiculous because I do none of their training, nothing that they really do sacrificially to actually be able to achieve these things. And just somewhere in my head, it makes me feel better about getting old, I guess. Number two, I am hopeful watching them that what you were talking about, Preston, throwing the protocols out the window and the whole thing, that looked regular is probably not the right word, but that's what I'm gonna say. That looked like a regular sporting event where who just hit us up here? This was Clemson Wayne. Was it me or did the crowd act like buffoons? Absolutely they did. This is what we do as fans when we go to major sporting events. We act like idiots. And it's okay, by and large, as long as you don't cross too many lines, because it's a sporting event. It's where you go to release and get away from real life and the whole thing. And, man, that scene on 18 with Mickelson and Koepka getting almost completely engulfed by the crowd as they were walking up the 18th green or up the 18th fairway to the green. Our buddy Bill Gunter was there yesterday. He was so pumped about the actual moment. He hopped in the car, made the trip, and he was front row on the 18th green, toes on the green, he said. Had a great view of sports history. And you can argue about where this fits in as far as golf moments, right? I say it's number 3 in my lifetime. Tiger winning the Masters in 2019, number 1. Jack Nicklaus winning the Masters in 86 at 46 years old. I put Phil winning at 50, the PGA Championship at number 3, behind those two. You want to tell me it's number 1? I got no problem with that. You want to tell me you don't care about it? Here's why I think you should care about it. It's because of the second part of this thing, right? It's not because I'm old and we're all getting older and Phil's old from a sports perspective. It's because that looked normal. That looked regular. It looked like how things used to look. And that makes me hopeful that we're moving, we're almost turning the page, moving on to the next chapter in our lives, not just in sports, gentlemen, in our lives. Am I wrong to overhype this as, is my hope misplaced, I guess is my question there? Or you guys, can you see where I'm coming from on that?
Well, I can definitely see where you're coming from the fact of getting back to returning to a sense of normalcy and having the idea that we can go out and enjoy some of these spectator events. And I think we found out is that part of the spectator events is being a spectator and being in the crowd and feeling the energy of the group. And that's something that's very encouraging as we move forward. I do think your hope is misplaced in the old guy winning sports theme because I just don't think that's going to happen for us. Patrick still has some time, but I feel like we're on the other side of those accomplishments.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen, like, I feel like we don't count Tom Brady because he's just like a different breed of human, and we've just not been surprised about it. So like the old guy winning isn't necessarily new to even just recent history. And LeBron James is also just like not a norm. He's not like the rest of us walking the earth, but Phil's like kind of seems like just a normal guy and kind of seems like an old guy when he's on the golf course sometimes. Yeah, he looked actually really good. I guess he's dropped a ton of weight and has put a lot of emphasis on hitting the ball farther, like the Bryson DeChambeau sort of effect. But that's the best I've seen him look. I don't watch golf every week, but I couldn't believe how good he looked, like fit and healthy.
Well, to me, it was about how he played, right? And he didn't play like an old dude. He wasn't out there being a crafty guy that couldn't hit it as far as everybody else and just happened to make some putts and the whole thing. He hit the longest drive in the whole dang thing. He outdrove DeChambeau, number 16, in the final round by a couple yards. 366, I think it was, something ridiculous. So it wasn't that he just won and he somehow pulled out some miraculous deal. He was the best player, and he just it was close to dominant. You know, the 2-shot win at the very end there, and Koepka kind of found a way to make it a little bit more interesting, and he didn't exactly flourish down the stretch, Mickelson, and dominate there compared to some other final rounds we've seen him fall apart and give things away. It was massively notable. So I am hopeful in a lot of different ways. That main one being that we are returning closer to normal. And we did see that here in Columbia over the weekend as well. Thursday night started that Tennessee series where Tennessee got off to the lead and didn't give it up, 10-4 series lead. The Gamecocks on Friday night, that's where it really felt more normal to me, guys, from the Gamecock perspective. Good crowd on hand, 5,700, I think, or something like that at Founders Park. So near full. You get a 3-run homer from Brady Allen. You tie up the series. You go to that noon rubber match, and you got a chance to get a really significant series win to go into the postseason. Didn't quite happen. 5-4 the final score on Saturday. Would love to hear the one word that you have to describe Gamecock baseball as well. We'll do that as we continue to roll on this morning. So if you're going to text us on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, maybe a couple of words you could do. One for Phil Mickelson winning, one for where Gamecock baseball is right now. Chris says, my word is thankful. He's talking about Mickelson. I didn't watch 1 second, or actually he's just talking about sports in general, of golf, soccer, or NBA. So his word is thankful that he didn't watch any of that. Feel free to play that game as well. And Mark on Twitter hit me up at TimHill1075, says, funny how where we are dictates what is on the small TV. Mine was hockey muted on the small TV, Phil on the big TV with the volume up. Different perspectives. It helps make the world go around. Appreciate you being a part of the Extra Point this afternoon. Tim Hill helping to fill Pearson Fowler, Preston Thorne, Patrick Perrette alongside. This is 107.5 The Game. Clear. Oh, he's got the water going. What a pro. I assume it's water. Maybe it's coffee.
Did you see the video of Shannon calling Julio just like 10 minutes ago?
Yeah. So stupid. Did you see this, Preston?
No, what happened?
Tell him, Patrick.
Shannon Sharp called Julio Jones live on the air today. Didn't appear to tell Julio that he was on TV and asked him about Atlanta, and Julio said, yeah, I'm out of there. So everyone's like, oh, I guess it's a done deal. So that thing is done. He's definitely getting moved now.
Not so fast.
I mean, if coming from both sides now, that might be irreparable. Also, TJ Finley just announced he's going to Auburn.
Was it already? It was already in the works that they were trying to deal him, or what's the status on that?
Yeah, the reports came out last week that they're shopping him, and nobody had said anything really publicly until they just kind of surprised Julio, put him on the air without him knowing, and he said, yeah, I'm out of there. So it seems like both sides are eager to get it done now.
So what's the landing spot?
Apparently the Patriots are definitely looking to make that happen. I think Julio has a good relationship with Cam Newton. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots did it. I think people are going to be shocked how little he gets traded for.
If
Really?
if that wasn't talked about at all, that's the biggest tool move of all time. Calling up somebody while you're on TV and not telling them you have them on the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not cool at all.
At all.
You heard the other host. I don't know who
You're
the moderator
You're
is.
supposed to tell somebody they're on speaker if there's one other person listening.
Yeah. I don't know who the
Right.
moderator is who moderates that show, but you could hear her in the background say, "Can you make sure he knows that he's on the air?"
Good for her. Wow.
So Julio might be very, very mad about that. I don't know.
When keeping it real goes wrong right there.
Has been helping South Carolina families.
Yeah, that's a major violation.
We can help you as well by providing home, life, and business products. As a family-owned and operated agency, we will give you the personal service and peace of mind you deserve. Visit us at gilesbrothers.com. That's GILES brothers.com to find out why we are the trusted choice in the Midlands. Come see the difference Giles Brothers Insurance can make for you.
All right. We are back.
This is 175 and Chevrolet makes you smile.
All right, you're up.
(10-4) on Thursday night. Tennessee over Carolina. Then the Gamecocks bounce back with a 3-2 win on Friday night in quite the atmosphere at Founders Park. On Saturday, a comeback effort falls short, 5-4 the final score. Tennessee comes to Columbia, takes 2 out of 3, and the Gamecocks finish the SEC regular season 16-14. The RPI is down to around, 14 in the country or something. I'll look those numbers up again, and a lot of the polls are out this morning. I know the Gamecocks fell completely out of the D1Baseball.com poll. RPI has been top 15, but no series wins against those top 15 in the RPI. Mississippi right behind the Gamecocks at number 15 in the RPI, so the Gamecocks are number 14. I believe it is what it is exactly, but I'll look that up here in a second. The numbers aside, let's go to words. And Preston will let you thought as we continue to roll on here. I'm Tim Hill filling in for Pearson Fowler, by the way. Patrick Perrette producing this afternoon as well. You went with proud, one word to describe what you felt when you were watching Phil Mickelson win the PGA Championship, especially on South Carolina soil. What's the one word you would use to describe Gamecock baseball now that the regular season is done?
Encouraged.
Proud and encouraged. All right, encouraged how?
Encouraged because of the way that we've seen this team play throughout the year. Again, we've been trying to have an argument of whether this team is underachieving or overachieving, and I've maintained that the only way we would know that is if we talk to people really within the organization. So we don't know necessarily that, but what we do know is that every time this team faces sort of an uphill battle, they come out and they continue to fight and they continue to play and battle to the last inning. As you can see in that, and though it was a loss, and this is big boy baseball, so we're not talking about moral victories, but they haven't folded yet this year, and I do think that's going to bode well for them as we go into postseason play. Okay,
encouraged is where Preston goes. What about you, Patrick?
I think I would go with bullish. I think you can be encouraged about what you saw this weekend, especially. I think you had the tying run at the plate with no outs, right? Is that the ninth inning in Tennessee?
You had the tying run at second base with no outs.
Oh, the winning run. Sorry, the winning run at the plate.
Run at the plate.
And just couldn't get it done there at the end. But you've shown you can play with the best teams in the country. You haven't gotten the results. And the only reason I'd say bullish is because it's a new season now. And I don't even think it necessarily matters what happens this week in Hoover, because Tommy Moody on his way out reminded me that when South Carolina won the College World Series, they did so without winning a game in the SEC tournament. So I don't think it matters what happens this week. If you win a couple games, you get hot, ride a little momentum into the postseason and or into the actual NCAA tournament, whether you host or not. I really couldn't I'm not qualified to say if they're expected to host or not. I don't think they are at this point. But either way, you've found a stud in Brett Carey that you can just guarantee is going to give you quality starts. Done it 2 weeks in a row. He's just been money. So you're feeling really good about that. And you either, you win a couple games this week and feel good about yourselves going into NCAA tournament play, or you lose and have a short week and get guys healthy because you're a little banged up right now. That's the biggest issue, I think, facing this team is health. So I don't even know what Gamecock fans want. I assume they want to win every time they get out there. But either way, rest up, get healthy, and it's a new season. Anything that happened in the past doesn't matter. You have the confidence to know that you can play with anybody, and you just haven't had the results. But anything can happen once you hit the postseason.
Bob just hit me up on Twitter at TimHill1075 and goes with Mickelson. His one word is amazing, and his one word for Gamecock baseball is the same word I was thinking. I'd already written it down, Bob, by the way. I don't have any way of proving that in a court of law, so you can still completely sue me for plagiarism here. But close. Close is the word I use for Gamecock baseball. Close, for some people, I think, has a really negative connotation. Close is not good enough. And don't get me wrong, Gamecock baseball has the highest of standards. And close, Chad Holbrook was close a couple of times with a couple of super regionals. Obviously, it wasn't good enough. It can't consistently be close, but where Mark Kingston has this program, I think, as Gamecock followers can understand or appreciate being back to close, because it wasn't very close a couple of years ago with a record of 28-28. And this year being over 500 in SEC play, certainly not easy. And being that close this past weekend, Patrick, like you pointed out, in that Tennessee series, and Tennessee is as good as almost anybody. Being close against Arkansas, good enough against Vanderbilt to avoid a sweep and come back, and it was a close Friday night game. Close to the best in the country, but pretty consistently this year, they showed that they're not quite there. But up and down the lineup, it looks like one of the best teams in the country should look, by and large. The numbers not quite there from a batting average standpoint. I get that. You got the home run leader, or right there, close to him, Wes Clark in the country. You got other guys up and down the lineup who can do good things. It looks like Gamecock baseball teams should look almost 100%, just not quite there. Awfully close. And yeah, to your point, Patrick, I don't know what you do this weekend. It's a weird deal. There is no football equivalent of this, is there, Preston, of a conference tournament? Because you just get the conference championship games in football. And I don't know if we've ever termed one that is irrelevant just because the way the football season's set up. Maybe this is more like in the NFL when you have your playoff bid sewn up and you have a game or two left on the schedule. That's not going to change anything from a playoff perspective. But even then, you can make the argument that those games from a momentum standpoint are pretty important, even if you're trying to avoid some injury in the whole deal. What do you think, Preston?
Yeah, I would never argue for a game not being important. So if you're going to go out there and play, you're going to obviously try and win. But I do think for any team, especially this team, maybe to string together a couple of wins against some good SEC teams, I don't see how that would hurt you going into the next phase of the season. And it's always another feather in your cap that you can say, hey, we won these games and we really put some pressure on our opponents, and we belong in the upper echelon of the SEC. And I just think if you go out there and play, go out there, not saying they would throw to win, throw the games or anything, but winning the games is important.
I understand that sentiment. And I was just, my 8-year-old gets confused. It's like, why are they trying to win the game? I forget which game it was specifically. He's like, wouldn't they want a better draft pick or something like that? I'm like, oh man, we got a lot to discuss. I got to change this kid. I got to school this guy up like you, Patrick. He's got that 76ers mindset. In this instance, though, with the team as banged up as it is, so you had George Khalil out in the last game at least. He's got an oblique deal, I believe. Brandon Malone, a hamstring issue. Braylon Wimmer, I know, not 100%. Josiah Seitler, not 100% out there. Not to mention some pitching stuff going on with Andrew Peters not throwing his best. Obviously, Jack Mahoney out for the season as of a couple of weeks ago. That's the only thing I would come back with, Preston, when you're like, oh, why wouldn't you win? And I get it. Positive momentum would be a good thing. The problem is you don't want to sacrifice setting yourself up in a good position headed to an NCAA regional for what amounts to something we forget very quickly when it comes to baseball. South Carolina baseball traditionally hasn't done very well at the SEC tournament because it's been hey, let's go there, but we all know that the important is not this next week. They're going to go there, and
you want me to put you on hold and you can bring it up?
Hopefully try to win them.
All right, what's your name?
You know what? The more important.
Gotcha, Bill. I'll put you on hold.
Back to get the team at 100% and ramp up for the NCAA tournament. And Ray Tanner was a master at that. We'll see how it goes starting tomorrow for the Gamecocks. They get the number 7 seed, by the way, taking on Alabama around 2 or so. It'll be the second game of the day. So no hard and fast start time for that one. And who Carolina ends up pitching, the whole thing, they're en route to Hoover, Alabama right now. We'll hear from Tommy Moody coming up on the halftime show pretty soon here with the latest from that perspective. But Gamecock baseball was close this year, close to having a real good season. I think they had a good season, close to being real good. 803-404-6100. We see several of you hitting us up on that Cool Care Heating and Air text line with your one word to describe what you saw from Phil Mickelson over the weekend, maybe Gamecock baseball on the season. We'll continue that conversation. Tim Hill helping to fill in for Pearson Fowler, Preston Thorne, Patrick Perrette alongside. It's the Extra Point here on 107.5 The Game.
Yeah, we got Bo talking about the Tiger Slam.
Talk about what?
I think whenever Tim said the 3 biggest moments in golf that he's seen, he's saying the Tiger Slam's on there.
Okay. How would you rate Bo as a potential caller 1 through 10, sir?
Oh wait. Well, I would rate him. He hung up.
0?
So yeah. He called several times, and then just hung up as soon as I was going to put him on hold.
Can't handle the big moment.
You iced him.
I guess so. I was nice to him too. Man, people really hate Brooks Koepka. What did Brooks Koepka say at the end?
He said that his knee got dinged by the people coming down the fairway. And it's not just what he says, it's how he says it and when he says it. Just comes off as such a baby.
He congratulated Phil.
He did.
Wait, is Phil's win more amazing because he didn't do anything stupid?
Yes. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Are you trying to move along and see another room? Hey, this is Paul Levenstein, proud owner of Business Landscape. Let us take care of those rescue weeds and make your lawn healthy and green. Our trained technicians use a proven program with years of success. We care about developing trusted relationships, which is why you will see the same technicians every service. At Midlands Landscape, we guarantee 100% satisfaction. Call Midlands Landscape today. 803-356-8888 or AAEs.com.
It simply doesn't have to always be about spring cleaning. You get your home clean for the summer, ready for Memorial Day weekend, especially if you're having friends and family over. Get Zero Reds carpet and air duct cleaning. Call Pros Zero Reds will give you great results. They'll do it differently than anybody else out there, and they've got a great deal for you right now as well. Free roots pump clean over $119 plus a free home clean when you mention me. Just Bill, call 803-262-4020. Schedule online at ZeroRedsColumbia.com. Get Zero Reds. It's
all about getting the most out of summer. And it started by
So, Preston, the presidential upheaval at the university, did that affect you at all?
No, I'm way down on the food chain. We still doing the same work. It don't really matter. I mean, maybe it'll affect us later, but in the immediate, nah.
Yeah, when that went down, I was like, who was I just talking to that had just hung out with Kaz? Oh, yeah, that was you.
Yeah, it was like, man, I was like, man, do I need to keep this tweet up there? What am I doing with this, man? I got a picture with the general up there. Am I going to get some hate mail or something? What's going on? He was a big proponent for the college education, though, so we'll see how that. He was an outlier for sure, so we'll see.
Huh.
All right, we're back. You're up.
Rocking into the second half of the Extra Point. Tim Hill helping to fill in for Pearson Fowler. Preston Thorne, Patrick Perrette alongside as well. Daryl with the question on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. How many times has the SEC baseball tournament champion gone on to win the College World Series the same season? Do the SEC powerhouse teams year in and year out try to win the SEC tourney or get set up for NCAA play? That last part is what most teams do. Understanding that the NCAA is much more important than a conference tournament championship. I believe the answer to your question is 3. I think it's happened. LSU did it 2 times, and then Vanderbilt did it the last time they won the national championship just a couple of years ago. I believe those are the only 3. And I think I got to give credit to Bill Gunter for looking that up this morning. But when Bill looks it up, I'll put like 90% confidence in that. That it's about 3. Because it's just so odd from a timing standpoint about voting all your resources to the conference championship to win it on a Sunday and then turn around on a Friday for NCAA regional play. That's the weird part about this. You know, we have this conversation about conference basketball tournaments, I feel like, all the time. How much do they really mean? Should we get rid of them? That whole thing. The baseball tournament, I think, is probably the oddest one because it has a direct impact on your team pretty quickly in the NCAA tournament. Asked you one word to describe watching Phil Mickelson win over the weekend and one word to describe Gamecock baseball now that the regular season is over. 16-14, the final conference record for Carolina after dropping 2 out of 3 at home to Tennessee over the weekend, 5-4, that final score on Saturday's rubber match against the Tennessee Volunteers, who, by the way, the winner of tomorrow's SEC tournament matchup between the Gamecocks and Alabama will get Tennessee the number 2 seed in the SEC tournament this year. One word for Phil from Raphael just says fuego. I've never heard fuego used without en fuego, but I'll go with that. Yeah, he was on fire for sure this weekend. More Care Heating and Air info in, or feedback, I should say. Papa Joe goes with impressed by Old School Phil. He'll go with impressed. Rocky up in Greenville playing along says one word for Phil, legacy. Word for Gamecock baseball is frustrating. So you guys both went on the positive side of things. What do you think, Preston? Do we also learn as much about the person than we do about their use of adjectives in this situation?
So it's like one of those Rorschach tests, right? So it's half full, half empty, because as somebody says frustrated, that's a viable answer. And that word is valid, and your feelings are valid, sir, if you are frustrated with this team. I think that might depend on what your expectations were going into the season. And again, we've just been having this conversation. Are they underachieving or overachieving? And I really think either people that follow the team really closely would know that, or the people inside the organization would know that. I don't know the answer because I'm not privy to all of that information. So that's why I see it as encouraged. But if you've been watching them and you see some different things from them that leads you to be frustrated, that's very valid. Okay.
Consistently, that's the frustrating part, right? Not being able to come up with a hit on Saturday, for instance, when you're down 5-4 in the 9th inning, you get a leadoff double from a guy who has pretty much struggled at the plate, hitting 8th in the lineup. You bring a pinch hitter in, you try to at least move them over, you decide not to bunt, and that doesn't pay off. That's frustrating for everybody, I think, as a part of the organization or just watching it from the outside as a fan. And then also not getting that kind of signature series win at the end of the season. That would have been this Tennessee win. Beat Florida. Florida's struggling at the time to start off SEC play. It's the best series win they have on the year. The series sweep against Florida, winning at Georgia is the other one against a pretty good RPI team. I think Georgia's at 41. But all those other ones you played, you had those opportunities, just couldn't quite come through. And I think that is frustrating. I think this is where the question can be unfair, right, Preston? Because I think you can be frustrated and encouraged at the same time. You can feel both of those emotions because you can be encouraged in the big picture for where the program is moving in the right direction, back to where it needs to move, and where the recruiting is and the talent. Clearly, the pitching depth was there this year. Pitching performance was there, being one of the best in the league. But also be frustrated not hitting enough when they needed them specifically and against who they needed them the most.
But isn't there an element of the bounces going your way? So like if you have the tying run on base and one out with Brady Allen and Andrew Eister coming up and you don't win that game, I think you feel like every other opportunity you have with that situation, you're going to come out and you're going to like your odds of winning that game. So it's like that doesn't really matter. I mean, if it was about hosting and that was the game, that game was what made the difference between hosting or not, then that does stink. But again, it's a clean slate and it's a new season. And if you have an opportunity like that, you're going to feel confident in your guys pulling through when it matters more.
Are you?
I mean, I would, with Brady Allen and Eister up to win the game, I will always like our chances.
Okay, I can see that for sure. But I can also see the other side of it that Rocky's kind of pointing out, the frustration side of it. And I think there are some Gamecock baseball fans. All Gamecock baseball fans are spoiled and should be able to admit that, right? From a success standpoint, back-to-back national championships, playing for a third in a row within the last decade. That stuff just doesn't happen a lot of places. And then to have seen what has happened in the post-Ray Tanner era with Chad Holbrook and now Mark Kingston, been riding a bit of a roller coaster. And there are not just Gamecock baseball fans isolated, right? Typically, Gamecock baseball fans are also football and basketball fans, and that bleeds over and puts you in a certain emotional state. And the lack of winning in those programs always, I think, throws the pressure on baseball to finish out the academic year, the athletic school year, on a high note. If it does, then the summer is pretty quick and you can build that optimism up a lot quicker, I think, for football season than you could otherwise. Being close is better than it has been. But I think for a certain section of Gamecock fans that really value that dominance that Ray Tanner had the program at, it might be that much more frustrating that it's not there, if that makes sense. But it is a lot how you look at it, about it. And now what Carolina can do in the postseason, we've always seen that a run of the postseason can make any kind of regular season frustrations go away. But I think at the end of a regular season is a good time to do an exercise like this because it's a complete deal, right? That regular season's done, it's gone, and you mentioned, Patrick, it is time to move on. It's just what can this team do with it? What they showed us in the regular season is they're not quite good enough to beat the best teams in the country. Will they show us something different in the postseason? They'll have the opportunity to do that. Will it be at home? Probably not, but could be at home, even as a 2 seed. You guys seen that possibility? I think Fairfield and Old Dominion in the mix for top 20 finalists to host a regional and could technically be the number 1 seed, even if they have it in Columbia, South Carolina this year. So something interesting to keep an eye on there.
I don't understand. Why is that the case?
Well, just because facilities-wise,
Oh, okay.
A much better place to host in South Carolina than up in Fairfield or even Old Dominion or the whole
I would
thing.
assume so, yeah.
Point, a revenue standpoint from the NCAA, how they would look at it.
Okay, so that's encouraging. Yeah, I mean, look, I get being disappointed, but I mean, I feel like just if you're saying the word close, that means that you should be encouraged because you just need a couple breaks to go your way each time. I mean, Hope just said on the live stream, too many times this has happened. Runners in scoring position with no outs or 1 out, no runs. You need to go on you just need a little bit of luck. Like, it's like when I'm watching hockey, like I was this weekend, and one team is just peppering you, and you're able to just get a couple breaks, couple posts here and there, and then you go back and score. Like, teams that get outshot still win games, and like that's what I mean. Like, there's so much luck that goes into it on a nightly basis. And people are texting in about 250 batting average, 1 out of 4 times, not good odds. But you've seen these guys like Allen and Eister, in particularly, come up clutch so many times this year. Like, I'm just saying, I feel good about those guys in those situations, and I don't care about the numbers. Like, they come up clutch, and they've done it all year long.
Dan in Somerton sees it the other way. Says, like the odds with a 250 batting average. That's 1 out of 4 times. Not good odds. A 320, 360 guy. Yes. Well, still, that would be 1 out of 3 at best, right? And then if you only have 2 of those guys, never mind. We're getting a little too mathematical here. My 8-year-old just came down and is having problems with liters and milliliters and the whole thing. And now Dan in Somerton not making it better. Kaiser sees it more like you, Patrick. Nobody remembers regular season wins on teams that go to Omaha. I like our odds with Eister and Brady Allen up to the plate as well. Go Cox. And then he asked, do we know what regional we're getting? And you won't know that information until about this time next week, noon next Monday, when the NCAA will put all of that stuff out. We'll continue to discuss both things, Gamecock baseball and Phil Mickelson, monumental PGA championship win, as we roll on 803-404-6100. If you would like to join, it's the Extra Point here on 107.5 The Game.
Clear.
So, Preston, who's the gymnast in the family? Preston, you got a gymnast in the family, or are you just big on gymnastics?
So my wife, she owns a gymnastics facility.
Oh, cool.
She's big on gymnastics.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's really interesting watching somebody that actually knows what they're talking about.
Right.
Because everything looks like a 10 to me. And she's like, nah, that's -3, 4, whatever. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is what an expert looks like. Because I don't know. Every flip looks amazing to me when I see it.
No doubt, man.
Yeah, because unless they like fall over when they're landing or slip off the bars or something like that, like I have no idea what makes it any different. Or fall off the vault or the what is it, the
Yeah, everything. I'm like,
what is it?
Well, the girls don't do the pommel horse, right?
No, the guys do the pommel horse. What's the other one that they have to the balance beam?
Yeah, they do the beam, right?
Yeah, that's the one that I'm most impressed by, where they're like
Yeah,
flipping on it and they have 0 space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, somebody did something. They did something that I thought was cool. I was like, oh, man, that was good. And she was like, and it's kind of basic. I was like, oh, okay.
That's the equivalent of somebody making a layup in the NBA. You're like, oh, what a nice shot.
Yeah. They went in.
Yeah, essentially. That's basically, she was like, she was just pointing out some of the different things that they were doing, and it's like, okay, this is really, really tough.
Yeah, I literally don't have any idea how they score it. Is it like scientific, or they're just watching it and saying like, I think this is like a 9.4, or they're actually plugging things in mathematically?
That's what it feels. But there's like a mix. They have
I don't
like
know.
a matrix, and certain things get certain
Oh,
points
okay.
off on each thing. So
That's intense. All right, we are back. You're up.
Rocking hard this afternoon. Whew, that is strong. Monday at 12:44. Tim Hill in for the hard rocking Pearson Fowler, Preston Thorne, and Patrick Patrick alongside as well.
Did you get to submit songs, Preston, or is this just all Pearson?
I have submitted a few. And I think come June
Okay.
we're gonna
It's only
release
fair.
music.
Good to hear.
Every time I see Fish, I know that this was not Preston's doing.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be fair. Preston, you're bigger than Pearson. Just go in there and tell them how it's going to be. You can do that too.
We're just gonna ease into this.
Okay.
Just
Nice of you.
slowly. But
Nice
sure,
of you to
we'll
be the
get it
nice
done.
guy, at least at the start. Interesting conversation, interesting words popping in on that Cool Care Heat and their text line. Just within minutes, Gamecock Will and Jordan both in with the word of legendary for Phil Mickelson and what they saw over the weekend. We're using one word to describe Gamecock baseball. Gamecock Will goes with disillusioned, and Jordan goes with predictable. Interesting, because there is, I think, that certainly section of Gamecock fans, that percentage, I don't know how large it is right now, who are where both these guys are. I think disillusioned, and if you're calling losing 2 out of 3 to Tennessee predictable, then you probably are a little disillusioned as well.
We're just predicting a game 1 loss and then playing much better in games 2 and 3.
Yeah, the numbers were ridiculous. 7-3 is what Carolina was, both in game 2 and game 3s in the SEC season this year. So 14-6, 14 of the 16 wins came in games 2 and games 3, and a 2-8 record typically would just be absolutely disastrous for an SEC baseball season. But this year the Gamecocks were able to kind of overcome that, finish 500, and I use the word close. Preston's used the word encouraged. Patrick, you've got bullish there. I'm not 100% confident in my definition of bullish, by the way. How are you using that? It
Like,
market or finance discussion.
I think it is. I think it just means like optimistic. That, or like, yeah, I think it probably does come from finance, where you're just like, you invest in one certain stock and you have confidence that it's gonna grow. I think. Okay,
Correct.
So yeah, bullish. Our stock is going up right now, trending upwards.
Fair enough. Brent hits us.
Oh, wait now. So, are you bullish or are you holding? Are you just gonna stay steady? Because bullish means you buying more.
Oh, I would buy more. I like our.
Okay.
What's the opposite is bearish, right? Bearish is where you are not confident. Okay, yeah.
Man, you guys are good, big time investors. My financial.
I didn't take any finance classes.
Very limited.
I know this from the Wall Street movies, and that's about it.
Nice.
Gordon Gekko taught me everything I know.
Beautiful. Brent also weighing in the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. He goes, great for Mickelson over the weekend, and South Carolina baseball non-clutch. I don't know if that's a word, but I understand what he's saying there, except that's not what this team has been all season necessarily. It's what it's been against the top echelon of competition for sure, but like the LSU series, that was pretty clutch, down 4-0. And
coming back against Mississippi State was pretty clutch.
Right, but again, that wasn't to win the series. It was to avoid being swept, to come back in the final game at Vanderbilt, not to win the series, but to avoid a sweep. Also pretty clutch there. The sweep over Florida was pretty clutch. But an interesting take here from Ferrari on the YouTube live stream. Winning the SEC tournament would benefit the program more now than going to a super region. Disagree. I would love to hear the reasoning behind that. Maybe it's just simply because if you win the SEC tournament this year, you got to go through really good teams. And getting wins against those good teams might change some opinions, like we just heard, the disillusioned or the predictable from Gamecock Will and Jordan, I think. Maybe that's the point there.
having a piece of hardware at the end of it.
Right. But again, who remembers SEC baseball tournaments? I would say large. No, it doesn't help either that it's on Memorial Day weekend, I think, and it's relatively easy to ignore unless you're seeking it out. Like I couldn't tell you a classic SEC baseball game in the SEC baseball tournament. There's nothing that pops in my mind. And I really like SEC baseball. But when it comes to memorable stuff and things to hang your hat on, that's just not one of them. It's not of it. The timing of it is the oddest part, because you do turn around in just a few days and play the NCAA tournament, and success in the SEC tournament doesn't necessarily translate, and the opposite is true as well.
So, like, is Vanderbilt not even going to throw Rocker or Leiter in? Like, is it such that you don't even play those guys in the SEC tournament?
You don't go out of your way to play them, I think is the way to put that, right? If they're scheduled to pitch to throw on a certain day, that's what they're going to do. Okay. And you're going to do that more than try to win that game. You're going to try to do that in the best way to have them ready to win their next game. Does that make sense? That's the weird part about this.
Yeah. Even when it gets to the championship, it's not like if your ace needed one more day, you're not just going to throw him on shortened rest for the sake of winning the SEC tournament. Because I mean, I guess I get it for the early rounds, but once it comes time to actually play a championship game, that people actually care, right?
Right. Unless it costs you moving on in the NCAA tournament. If that messes up your pitching rotation for 4 days down the line, then it's just not good coaching. And that's the weird part for this thing. And then having it over in Hoover, they usually do get good crowds for Alabama and Auburn ever play. But outside of that, I think it's more of a made-for-TV event. So we'll see how it goes. Again, the Gamecocks start tomorrow. Second game of the SEC tournament. At 2 o'clock, they ended up with the 7 seed, taking on 10 seed Alabama. The winner of that one, it's a single eliminating portion this first round, moves on to the double elimination portion that the top 4 seeds got buys, and number 2, Tennessee, kind of awaits that. So I mentioned the SEC tournament and things that stick out in my mind. I'm not sure what moment's going to stick out the most from Phil Mickelson over the weekend. There was the shot, I think it was on Saturday, fairway bunker. He goes like over and around a tree, backs it up, and is this far away. That's the one shot that sticks out. He chipped in from the sand yesterday as well for birdie, I think on number 4 or 5, relatively early in his round. The scene of all the fans kind of engulfing he and Brooks Koepka certainly going to stick out as well. Anything from you guys' perspective that will stick with you?
Well, did someone pick up his ball? I saw that rumor, and I couldn't find the video. I was looking all over for the video, but I heard
didn't have video of it. The way it went down was just a drive. It was in the gallery, and as Phil's getting ready to hit the second shot, someone tells him, someone points at it, it's like, actually it was right here, and then someone moved it, just a few inches, and so he called a rules official over and the whole thing.
How did that get sorted out? Like, did he get a better lie out of it?
He did. Well, we assume. We don't know what the lie looked like when before it was touched, but I think as opposed to if that would have been Patrick Reed and that's all we would be talking about today or something like that, everybody's just like, all right, move on. Huh. I think everybody was good with it. Anthony from Kershaw just hit us up on the YouTube live stream. Old Lefty throwing up all the thumbs up. Yeah, anybody got to count on how many of those happened?
It was
pretty funny on social
kind of
media.
Bizarre.
How is that bizarre? That's his thing, man.
That's his thing?
Yeah, he made fun of it. He put it out on social media, I think, on Saturday. He's like, the more putts that go down, the more the thumbs come up. Hoping for a lot of thumbs up.
I thought he was like I thought he was mocking the Fonz or something like that, and that was his whole thing.
Those are 2 thumbs up.
Come on, that's a pretty deep cut, man.
All I know is that he gives a thumbs up. That's all I know about the Fonz.
Hey, good news. We're really getting into this financial update now. Joe says, Bulls attack with their horns. Bears attack downward. Spot on. Alex says, I wonder if anyone was like me and learned bear and bull market from those commercials with bears shopping. And if this is your idea of a bear market, I had to look it up at that point, Alex says. Great show today, guys. Preston, love your addition to the show.
Appreciate it.
The kind words there, Alex. We appreciate all you guys weighing in on today's program at 803-404-6100, whether you did it there, whether you checked out the bonus additional live video stream that we do every morning on the early game occasionally on the afternoons if we're filling in. Pearson's out all week, so we'll be doing this kind of on and off. I know Jay will be with you guys tomorrow before the 1:15 airtime when USC baseball is taking over for us tomorrow afternoon with that Alabama game scheduled to go right around 2 o'clock or so. So for Preston Thorne, Patrick Perret, I'm saying, oh, that'll do it for the extra point here on 107.5 The Game.
All right, you play.
Man, that goes fast. Even when I'm blowing my nose to the whole thing. Preston, thanks, man.
For sure, man. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, like I said, Jay's going to do it tomorrow. And then Bill and I will finish out the week. And I don't know what order exactly, but it'll be one of us hopping on Wednesday, Friday.
Is baseball 1:45 tomorrow?
1:15 is what they're saying they're going to hop on.
So next, like it's a 2 o'clock game, right?
We don't know. It just depends on how the early game goes.
Okay.
But they're coming on at 1:15, and I'm just going to let them fill it.
Okay.
They might have extra coverage of the early game if that hasn't gotten over, or it might time out relatively well.
Okay. And then Keith is just kind of standing by for whenever it ends.
Yeah, I'm thinking about 5 or so is when he's going to pop on, somewhere in there. Oh, same to you. Thank you for checking out the live stream. Anthony, thumbs up. Well done, sir.